Hello, everyone. Welcome to Marigold Live, our very first of our April series. Bridget and I are so grateful to have you here today. We were really missing the chance to engage and interact and network with our friends in the space. And so we thought that this would be a really fun opportunity for us to do a bit of a weekly chat, get some experts on board, and share some really important information. We're really looking to have a positive chat full of opportunities, talk about where we're at right now and talk about how it's impacting business, and give you some interesting ways that you can mitigate some of the challenges and work through the risk. Bridget's here with me. We're the co-founders of Marigold PR. Bridget, did you want to give a little bit of an introduction about Marigold?
Sure. I'm delighted to be here today. Hi, everyone. Hello, fellow panelists and audience. Marigold is focused on PR and marketing solutions for many companies in the cannabis, social good, and tech space. Katie and I have been partners for 4 years now, and we're really thrilled to provide an opportunity, as Katie was saying, to talk about marketing solutions and to raise the conversation these days and be hopeful and optimistic while being empathy and understanding the difficult situation that we're all facing.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Bridget. Coming out of today's conversation, we're going to have a Q&A, so you can use the function. Tracy will give you some information about that, or you can save your questions for the end, whatever works best for you, but we aim to make this as engaging and interactive as possible. And also, coming out of this, I wanted to let you know that on marigoldpr.com, we have lots of content about communications and social media and PR during this time. So following our discussion, if you wanted to head over to marigoldpr.com, you get lots of new information. So I wanted to take this opportunity just to throw it over to Tracy to do a little bit of housekeeping about how it's all going to work today. Tracy, over to you.
Hi guys, hi everybody. It's nice to see so many people. Let me just a few things here. As far as housekeeping goes, just a reminder to let everybody know that today's call is being recorded. We will be sending a follow-up message out to you guys a little bit later in the week with a link for all the information and all the great takeaways that you're going to get out of today. So you are being recorded right now. All participants are on mute except for myself and our panelists today. So any form of engagement that you do want to do, if you quickly now go to the bottom of your screen in Zoom, you are going to be able to see all participants. You'll be able to see the list of the panelists. You'll be able to see all the participants that have joined us today. There is a Q&A function. So throughout today's webinar, you have the opportunity to just click on the Q&A, ask your question. The only thing I ask is that you do make sure that you let me know who the question is directed towards. And you can also ask the panelists questions directly to them as well, okay? So throw your questions in there at any time throughout the next hour and a half. At some point, Katie, I will be flipping over to a poll. We're gonna do a fun little poll today, get some of the results, and we'll be sharing those results with you a little bit later on. And then the chat function. So this is a great opportunity for all of us to get to know each other, say hello to all of your friends. There's lots of new faces here I can see today. And so put your chat in there. Also, please throw in your social handles as well, where we can find you, where you're from. So feel free to join in on the chat there. And that's pretty much it for me. If you have any questions, I am Tracy, I am the host. Send your questions over to me. If you're having any technical problems as well, absolutely. If you're having any audio issues with hearing any one of our panelists, then you can also send that note to me. Today's session will probably be we have it blocked off for about an hour and a half. The first hour probably back and forth with the panelists. It's going to be a great lineup, and then we will do the Q&A after, and we will throw it over to the audience. So thanks everybody for joining today. I will flip it over to Katie, and I'm just going to unmute everybody.
Great, thanks for that, Tracy. Tracy's got all of our technical needs covered, so if you need anything, you just ask her like we do, and she will help you out. So today we have some amazing guest speakers with us. We have Adam from Grow Opportunity and Christina from Detonate, and I would love to throw it to Adam to introduce himself and give us a little bit of information about who you are and what Grow Opportunity does in the space.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, so my name's Adam. I'm associate publisher here at Grow Opportunity. We're a business-to-business trade media brand in the Canadian cannabis industry. So we publish a bi-monthly magazine. Here's an example of it here, delivered to the industry, mostly LPs and testing labs. We have 2 events across Canada, industry events, and we have a lot of digital products, podcasts, webinars, e-newsletters, and all the content we create and curate aims to help our Canadian licensed producers manage their business and grow better. So yeah, thanks Katie and Marigold for having me.
Awesome. Christina?
So thanks for having me today. Here on behalf of Detonate Cannabis Agency, we're a print design agency in the cannabis space. Many of you may know us from trade shows and events where we produce, build, design amazing trade show experiences in their booths. We also are a full print design agency. We work with LPs on their labels, packaging, and my role is Director of Client Services. We all wear quite a few hats. At Detonate, mine specifically is just to ensure the high standard of service that Detonate puts forth is maintained every day and kind of be that go-to person for customer expectations and adding a little +1 to the already amazing things that Detonate does.
Awesome. Bridget, you introduced Marigold PR overall, but did you want to talk a bit more about what you do for us?
Sure. Katie and I started together, and Katie and I have a great kind of synergy going. And I'm responsible for the account side, the branding side, supporting the agencies, supporting the agency clients, and supporting initiatives like this. So it's just been great to work with a number of agencies, agency opportunities with our clients, helping them tell their brand story, which we're going to talk a little bit about, and promoting them through PR and marketing initiatives.
Fabulous. And today, as you know, we're here for our first session to talk about B2B marketing opportunities. It's a really challenging time right now for everybody across the globe, and cannabis has had its own fair share of challenges in 2019 and beyond. Or dating further back than that, that's for sure. So essentially what we're looking to do is to highlight some opportunities. I mean, a lot of us expected to be heading out to multiple networking events over the next few months. Christina, we know that's a big part of your business. Adam, we know that Grow Opportunity is represented at these events and also host some of your own. So we thought this is going to be a great chat just to kind of talk about where we're all taking our business. The first thing I wanted to put out there, Tracy, did we want to open up that poll? We have a poll coming to you, and we wanted to get everyone's feedback. And the question is, you know, how are you feeling during this time, and have your budgets or plans changed due to COVID?
There we go. I've just
awesome. So it's popped up on the screen.
There we go. You guys are all so quick to respond. It's great. All right, make sure you jump in the poll here. I can still see there's a few left. A couple more coming in. Just a reminder, guys, to keep up with the chat. I can see lots of conversations. So many people are throwing their websites down where we can connect with you guys on social. As well, any social engagement that you're doing today, our hashtag today is Marigold Live. Just a few more polls coming in. Hi, Nora. Hi, Ashley. Hi, Jackie.
This is the point in conversations I always think it feels like romper room when we're hi everyone. I see Katie and Christina.
I see Barry.
So what's that poll saying, Tracy?
So far, there's still a couple more coming in. Let's give everybody another minute.
Okay.
Still, yep, another minute. I see Barry. Everybody needs to find the Barry. He's in here. Siobhan. Okay, we're almost done here. Oh, Michaela, hi. All right. All right, so any polls, it looks like Katie, the results are 90% are saying yes.
Wow. I mean, we definitely expected a high number. So I'm really glad. Oh, there's the results there.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that we're having this chat today. It seems really relevant to everyone on the call. So awesome. All right, panelists, over to our first question. And Bridget, let's start with you. How are marketers and communicators feeling right now? And what are the pain points when it comes to PR and advertising in today's climate?
I think that I mean, look at the results. Everyone is feeling disrupted, anxious, and to a number of folks that I've talked to who are on this on the poll and on this call, they're also feeling a bit unfocused because it's difficult with this split focus to look at your operational and your financial challenges linked to the crisis and than what was happening before the crisis in terms of staying focused on your marketing and strategy plans. So that's the pain point right there. And so what we know is that, as marketers, consumers at this time want relevant and corporate operation and corporate information, operations, what's going on, but they also want a sense of understanding and empathy and to look forward because there'll be a future. So that's a bit of a pain point because we don't know exactly what the future is, but we know that there will be a future. They also want to know what the best information is right now and where the plans are. And they also need to be reassured because and have a future friendly look forward, but it's also, it's a time of empathy and a time of understanding. So those are the pain points that we're seeing on our side. A multiple focus and a lot of crises amongst our clients.
Right. Adam, are you seeing a similar experience with your clients over at Grow Opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely situations on both the LP side and the supplier side where companies are facing a number of liquidity challenges, and the reality is there are cutbacks on non-cash generating activities such as marketing. The term spending freeze comes up a lot, which is nails on a chalkboard to a marketer, but luckily we haven't seen too much pullback on our end, but I think we all see light at the end of this tunnel, especially in the cannabis industry. Marketers are, one of the pain points is marketers are taking a softer approach and they're scrambling to change their message. They're watching their language. It's important to be toned down in this environment where we're seeing strong words like pandemic and crisis and despair everywhere. So marketers can provide a more calming approach to their messaging.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, great tips. And Christina, what have you been experiencing over there at Detonate?
So, as you know, as Adam mentioned as well, there's a lot of changes that we're experiencing. We've taken a step back from the typical sales and marketing and really focus more on strength and support. The team that we have when it comes to our clients, we're just there to react and assist where we can. Like our clients, we're navigating this new road just like them, and we're just doing our best to adapt and accommodate to their changes. Plans that were in place that are changing now, we're just being very accommodating to adapt to whatever they need to do going forward, and just really support their new initiatives and help them along their road as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it like Bridget said, it's distracting and it's really hard to get on mission or on point or back to plan when there's there's so much going on in the world, and you're trying to remain sensitive to that situation. I read an interesting thing by a publisher on LinkedIn talking about, in print, how they have to consider, 6 months ahead, and at the very least 8 weeks ahead, and how, there's still a mission to fulfill. So I think that's great that, Christina, you've turned towards support, and that's what you're focused on. I know at Marigold, Bridget and the account team have spent a lot of time with our clients, lending a hand for strategy and support during this difficult time. Next question here. I mean, this isn't the first time we've gone through a challenging situation. This isn't even the first pandemic that we've faced. Toronto was hit pretty hard with SARS and other situations. What can we learn about this? Adam, maybe you could share and start with some information. What can we learn, B2B marketers, from previous global events? Over to you, Adam.
Yeah. So there is quite a bit of research that we have available to us from these past events in 2000 and 2008. And I can share this research with everyone after we wrap up. But what we know is that during past similar situations, we have observed that it's always more cost effective to stay the course than to pull back and play catch up later. Your marketing message is not a faucet that you can turn off and on. So history has shown us that companies that maintain and stay the course or increase their advertising during these times actually increase their sales and market share both during and after the downturn. And so maintaining these programs and these campaigns is much less expensive than rebuilding after the fact. And there's a good quote that says, when times are good, you should advertise. When times are bad, you must advertise. And some friends and colleagues in the US have a good analogy called the NASCAR effect. And that is that if you make the decision to go for a pit stop and stop all activities and marketing to your customers, you have to assume that your competitors are not. And that when this situation subsides and you pull back out into the race again, you're 3 to 4 laps down, and it's impossible at that point to catch back up. So you really have to have the assumption that your competitors are continuing on with their marketing programs. So these are just some of the things you need to think about as a brand when you're making these drastic decisions to stop communicating and stop marketing.
How's that for motivation? If you're not marketing right now, if you're not, out generating publicity and working on your brand, your competitor is. So, I think that's a bit of a kick in the butt for a lot of people that are feeling a little bit disjointed about how to approach things right now. Bridget, any thoughts on this piece here about what can we learn from previous global events?
Well, I think I have worked in media for a long time, and when 9/11 hit and when SARS hit, I was responsible for marketing over at the old CBC, and Canadians turn to credible news sources and destinations when they're looking for information. I mean, that was all pre social media because it was 2003, but it's the same today. Media demands are unparalleled right now. Journalists and reporters and editors are focused on COVID, and that's a first priority. And government messaging, health measures, all of those pieces are driving the news cycle. But what's also important is knowing that a lot of consumers are actually going to all those destinations and seeking out information right now. So how you're modeling your communications to be relevant, credible, transparent right now, and actually, if possible, partnering with credible media outlets and platforms is really a key strategy right now. I mean, look at Grow Opportunity, look at CP24, look at CBC Newsnet. All of those outlets are all experiencing incredible growth right now because people are looking for facts and information from sources that they trust. So as marketers, it's the time to be very clear and credible, transparent, and of course, reassuring in terms of the messaging. But think about the those markets, because I agree with Adam, this is not the time to turn off the faucet or take a pit stop. It's how you're going to keep working through it and being future friendly.
Great advice. Great advice. And so, you know, that's a lot of us looking at our plans and having to make some real changes. Like I mentioned earlier, you know, cannabis, given where it's at, given it's so collaborative, it's still an emerging industry. You know, their networking is such an important part of what we do, and events are such an important part of what we do. And so, you know, this is a question for Christina here. I mean, Detonate's known as the go-to trade show company in this space. If you've admired a booth at an event, Lyft or otherwise, it's definitely a Detonate booth. They do beautiful work. So what's keeping you busy these days, Christina? You know, what are you doing to support your clients and your brands that were relying on these networking events that don't exist anymore?
Yeah,
for now. Sorry.
For now, just a hiatus for now. You know, for sure, we've been a part of Lyft since the very beginning, and so it's definitely a change for us to take a pause from that industry. But really, we started Detonate. Our roots are in print and design, and right now more than ever, we're listening to the needs of the clients and supporting their initiatives, whether that's to provide print assets, to communicate new messaging that's changed, labels and packaging, promotional material, or even utilizing our in-house design team to assist where maybe our clients have had to have teams work from home. You know, anywhere we can help to fill in any gaps in their business, we're here, you know, to help. Everyone's at a different stage of development, and we're being quick thinking and reactionary to their needs. We have an entire division dedicated to our labels and packaging. Currently, we offer all kinds of labels for flour, oils, now consumables, and that includes cartons. Our account reps are also very versed in compliance and the side. We've been doing this for years, and able to really assist at any stage of the production, from the beginning of design to manufacturing. And if space is an issue, as many of our LPs do, we also have full warehousing capabilities, so we're able to take advantage, our customers are able to take advantage of maybe ordering larger volumes, storing it with Detonate inventory, as we have a full online portal, which allows capabilities for pick and packing and fulfilling when they need it. This is actually an invaluable tool at this point, because anyone working remote right now has the access through this online portal to just access all of their assets without actually being in the office. We know a lot of people are working remote, and so we've been able to kind of streamline and make it a little easier to access their own collateral as if they were in the office, and do it straight from home. And this includes, you know, everything from promotional materials to full retail campaigns across the country.
Amazing. I really appreciate that. You know, some of our suppliers have tried to make it easier for us as well. And, you know, it goes a long way right now to show that you're going to go the extra mile to make life a little bit easier while it's a bit bumpy. Bridget, over to you. You know, any advice of what people can be doing right now? What are the types of things that people can be doing right now during this time to help continue that brand momentum?
Well, I think there's two parts to this answer, Katie. I think that, you know, there's really focusing on the tools in your communication strategy and staying focused with email blasts and newsletters and virtual conference tools like this, as well as social media updates and looking for a very strong announceable schedule that's relevant and worthwhile. A lot of people are saying, you know, I don't really want to hear too much about how everyone's operating during this period. It's more like what's going to happen. You know, I want relevant information about my business and how I can move things forward. I think the other part too, though, is that we really need to think about how we're planning as we move forward during this time. And there's almost like three phases. It's like it's you know, people are talking about launches and things like that, but really there's now as we're leading into the curve, and then flattening the curve, and then back to the new reality post the curve, and whatever that new reality is going to look like. So I think that we should measure all these initiatives against that kind of thinking for the next 2 to 3 months, 4 months.
And you touched on this earlier, but I thought it might be worth highlighting again. And we talked about this yesterday, Bridget, how, you know, media is still working. They're an essential service. They have a job to do and they have stories to fulfill. So any advice, Bridget, to people who are looking to garner some publicity at this time?
Absolutely. So I think that you know, there's a lot of pieces. Media is still working. People are looking for stories, and there's lots of topics. You know, people have done workshops lately, even on how their team's working from home, how they're moving things forward, how they're achieving. But at the same time, there are press releases and announceables that have been issued. Just yesterday, we got a featured story from a local media for a client, which was completely outside of the pandemic story. And, you know, people are starting to look for how they're going to move business forward. People are doing presentations, meetings, picking new partners, developing new products. Business is still going on and the media is still working. So help them understand that for a lot of them, their first priority is the pandemic, but at the same time, there's a lot of material and a lot of content that can be developed and covered, and reach out and keep pitching during this time.
Yeah, I agree. And Adam, over at Grow Opportunity, you know, you guys represent both the earned side in terms of some journalism and then also paid opportunities. So any advice to our webinar participants, you know, what can they be doing today? Any advice around that?
Yeah, for sure. So the reality of this situation now is that traditional sales channels and marketing channels may be closed. Your outside sales reps can't go get that valuable face time, or we're hitting a pause button on generating leads from a conference. But I think this is also presenting a great opportunity, and that opportunity is telling your brand story, as Bridget was mentioning before. I think there's a lot of attention, maybe too much attention and budget dollars being spent on targeting existing customers and narrowly focused lead gen campaigns during this time. And this pandemic situation we find ourselves in is the ideal time to tell your brand story. So we know that brands that outperform their competition are twice as likely to think long term. For example, they'll allocate more than half, around 60% of their budget, to long-term brand building storytelling. They allow a campaign to run at least 6 months before gauging its success, or at least the length of its sales cycle. And traditionally, B2B marketers were very much focused on features, advantages, benefits of the product or service, but we know that the way B2B buyers interact with brands is similar to the way they interact with B2C brands. So this means emotional storytelling and long-term brand building are just as important as the products, features, advantages, benefits. I would even argue even more so in the cannabis space, because no matter the product, if it's a trimming machine or if it's an HVAC machine, these big ticket items, brands need creative storytelling elements to tap into those emotions. And what better time is there than when everyone is isolated and consuming a much higher than average amount of content? We're seeing an increase in web traffic and digital content on our e-newsletters. So what better time is there to do that, to tell your brand story than right now? We know that only 1/4, 25% of B2B marketers are doing this, and half of those marketers are measuring in less time than their business's sales cycle. So there's a huge opportunity for you as a marketer to realign your ratio, I guess you would call it, of short-term lead gen campaigns versus your long-term brand growth, because we know 75% of your competitors are not properly aligned. And one last point to that on why storytelling is so important, especially in cannabis, is because these large B2B facilities are purchasing very large ticket items, and it becomes part of their identity, what brands they select, what brands they use, even more so than other industries, I think. So these buyers of your products and services have a lot on the line with these decisions, and it takes a lot to gain their trust.
Mm-hmm.
So think about realigning during this time your ratio of these short-term lead gen campaigns and maybe expanding it into these building your brand and telling your story during this time.
Yeah, we couldn't agree more over at Marigold on the storytelling standpoint. And you know, Adam, you mentioned that people are consuming more content. Well, we also know they're consuming more cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
That's for another consumer-focused webinar that we're going to be doing down the line. But that is exciting for our industry. That you know, we're feeling a little bit recession-proof from the consumer standpoint. Bridget, over to you. You know, coming out of the things Adam was talking about, planning, long-term planning is challenging and very important during these times. And so how do you suggest that cannabis brands, or any brand for that matter, prepare for the rest of 2020 at this point?
Well, I touched on that a little bit earlier. I just want to echo Adam's answer a little bit on the brand story, because, you know, one thing we know is that B2C and B2B, where they align, it is emotional decisions. And if your brand story can humanize those machines and your facilities and your grow, no one can copy your story. It's your own story. Your brand story is your own company's story. And that's really a key point for differentiation right now as well. So I just wanted to echo that. And that also folds into how you're going to map out the next 6 months, because as I said earlier, it's a, you know, some people are getting ready to launch. Some people are thinking about, oh, I want to unveil a new product. Oh, I'm going to go into this new retail opportunity. And how is that going to work? Well, I think we need to think about your launch plans and your marketing plans that are moving full steam ahead, your brand story that's bringing it to life and evoking emotional connection and relationship. And at the same time, you have to layer across a COVID planning strategy, because right now, in terms of your brand, we're in the middle of it. We're telling the story, we're showing empathy, communicating, etc. Pretty soon, the health measures, the guidelines, social distancing, back to work, operations, they'll all be starting to normalize, probably within the next 2 to 3 months. How does that look? What is the headspace of the consumer? What are they thinking about right now? You have to start kind of imagining and triaging where you think your customer's headspace is going to be. And then finally, it's what does the new normal look like? When can we, you know, a lot of people are also talking about what's September going to look like? What's October going to look like? And then you have to layer in, is there a second surge? Will customers be back on track? There are so many factors. So it's almost like a 3-layer kind of chess game right now for the marketing team. It's our base, and then we're laying over all the new initiatives, and then we're laying over how we're going to work through COVID. It's a super challenging time for marketers, but you know, we can do it.
For sure, I agree. Christina, I think, you know, this is interesting too with Detonate, because, you know, retail is not slowing down, especially retail in Ontario. We're very excited that we're getting a chance to maybe, you know, try to catch up with provinces like Alberta. There's a lot rolling out, you know, during the rest of the year. And so what's Detonate doing, and how are you working with some of those retailers?
So retail is definitely playing a big part with the hiatus of conferences and expos. We've been working with friends in retail spaces across Canada for a while, and we're definitely seeing the demand build across Ontario. For the retail stores, we support a lot of these builds from the very beginning in their millwork and layout, down to interior and exterior signage, POS displays, strain cards, staff uniforms, promotional products that they sell like lighters and rolling paper. So we've been involved with a lot of the retailers from the beginning, but we're definitely seeing that increase as time goes on. On the LP side, we plan, produce, and execute retail campaigns. It's our ultimate goal to just take this pressure off the organization and off the LP so they can just keep focusing on what they need to do. We equip their reps with portable booths and pop-ups albeit with the restriction in stores right now. You know, there's a little bit of maneuvering being done with this, but we're just trying to get the sales reps that are on the field ready with the collateral and assets they need, so that they can, you know, continue their initiatives on behalf of their brands. We've really just become the liaison between the LPs and the retailers when it comes to bridging that connection and supporting both ends of the industry.
That's fabulous. And do you have any advice? Are there any sort of timing concerns or considerations right now, given, you know, where manufacturing's at? I'm just wondering, you know, if you're trying to order stuff from overseas, or, you know, some shops have shut down. Do you have any advice for marketers trying to do that sort of planning? And what does timing look like for everyone?
For us, we have quite a big in-house team that's still fully operational and, you know, taking precautions. You know, we are very connected to any suppliers or vendors that we need to work with. Generally, we're mainly Canadian based, and we like to focus and kind of give that support to Canada first and foremost. But, you know, when it comes to timelines, we haven't seen too much resistance. A lot of our suppliers and anyone that we need to get our materials from to continue doing our job are still as operational as we are. So we've been lucky. I don't want to, you know, I'm knocking wood and making sure that everything continues that way. But there's been a lot of situations where they're just as supported as we are in this situation. So we're optimistic that it can continue working as much as we can during all of this. But we also have great support from any of our clients that are asking for something. They also are very understanding if something's going to take an extra week because we have just less staff or staggered shifts in the situation. So everyone's kind of in the same boat. So I think the people ordering and the people producing are kind of all understanding the situation that's happening.
Great. And Adam, over to you. Can you give some advice to B2B marketers on the paid advertising front? I mean, you mentioned how relevant and important it is to continue your plans, but through the pandemic. But what about an eye through the rest of 2020? Any advice there?
Yeah, for sure. So you definitely want to be thinking about where you want your brand to be in 6 months or when this situation subsides. So now is an ideal time to map out your plan. And I'm going to bring it back to this theme I think is important of storytelling right now. I think if our viewers can leave with some information, this is the one piece that I want to hit home. So if there is an origin story or about the founder or something special about where you come from or your culture, now is the time that you can sort of be putting all these pieces together. If you don't have the ability in-house to do all this, we have some of Canada's top business-to-business journalists and editors in our company that can help you write your story and tell your story. And some examples of ways to get that brand story out there are things like webinars are great, video, sponsored content, podcasts, roundtable discussions, even print advertising with relevant content. An example of that, if your product or service resides in the grow room, this is our November, December issue where we feature some of Canada's top master growers. So we recognize different innovations and technologies inside the grow facility. So this is the type of content that allows you to connect and establish that trust and credibility. And then after this situation subsides, you can then, realign your ratio back towards some more lead gen campaigns. And I promise you, your metrics will be much better. So your open rates will be better, your click-through rates will be higher, the number of leads you generate to your website, your Google ranking will go up, your margins, all of these metrics will have improved. And because you have established that trust. So this is sort of the plan you can be building now for 6 months out or a year out. You can switch back to these high impact direct response lead gen campaigns and really you'll see your metrics hit it out of the park.
Yeah, for sure. Bridget, I thought maybe you might want to touch on trust. We love to talk about building brand trust at Marigold.
Well, I think that there's, trust is why are you doing what you're doing, and why does it matter, and why does it matter for me? And that's really the story about having a credible brand story that builds that trust, because your brand is a narrative. The brand story is a narrative that connects all the facts and the emotions. And it gives it gives in the cannabis space a reason for consumers or partners to buy or collaborate with you, and it's also your compass. And so building that sense of trust and reliability and dependability becomes part of the compass, your moral compass, what you stand for and why you do the things you do. And so as a result, trust builds brand loyalty, it builds brand forgiveness sometimes, it builds a sense of community, it also builds a value that you share in your relationship with the brand product. And trust is an emotional response, and we know that consumers are more likely to make an emotional decision on a purchase. And oftentimes we think about fit, and we think about partnerships, which is also trust, when we're thinking about B2B organizations that we're going to collaborate with. So trust is critical in building that relationship and building a positive brand perception.
Fabulous. I think it might be time to look at our Q&A. We've had quite a few questions come through. So I'd like to jump in and start with one here. This one's from our friend Barry. Hi, Barry. Thanks for joining us. We found the Barry. He's here. Barry says, marketing and communication strategy is a significant portion of any well-developed business continuity plan. How do you ensure your clients and leaders understand this? And so I think this is a really interesting question. I think we've all been in the position as a leader in the marketing or PR sector where we're trying to instill and get leaders to understand the value of the different pieces. So Bridget, let's start with you. Any suggestion there about getting buy-in from leadership?
Well, I think we've covered a lot of it today already, but there's that Bill Gates story quote on, I'd spend my last dollar on PR and marketing, but it's really the backbone in keeping the presence of the brand in place. And I think that for many of us, we know that there's a future. We don't quite know what the future is going to look like, but we have to be prepared for it. And I think that our jobs as marketers and communicators is to help guide and look for all of the information and resources that everyone on the panel has been talking about to help make well-informed decisions. And so I think that that's kind of what we need to be thinking about, helping our clients make the best informed decisions so that they remain relevant and they can move their business forward.
Mm-hmm. Great. So this is an interesting question here. We all know April is a big month in the cannabis space. 420 is a big day for the cannabis space, both on the B2C and on the B2B side of things. And our question here is from Michael at Eco420. He says, how do you best celebrate the month of 420 in a responsible way, given the circumstances? And his example is one of the LPs is giving away a surfboard on Instagram, and he feels it seems a bit interesting during this time. Maybe I'll throw to you, Christina. Any thoughts on, any off-the-cuff ideas or anything you're working on for your current clients, creative ways that we can look to celebrate 420 this year?
Yeah, I think as far as Ontario goes, and we are all homebound for as much as we can be, there's still a lot of opportunity to be connected with family and friends and celebrate. I'm seeing more and more Zoom meetings and parties that are just happening remotely. And I don't think that that's a negative thing. I think we're just connecting in different ways. I do feel that giveaways and promotions can still happen from any LP, retailer, or company. It just has to be happening on a little bit more of a different side of things. It doesn't mean we need to not celebrate. It doesn't mean we need to not or change the way we're doing things. We just need to do it differently. So celebrating with those we can electronically, in our backyards, in our homes. I think it's important to keep the same value in place. I think we need to still not give up on all of our initiatives just because we can't leave the house, you know, for 14 days. And I think we're stuck on this idea that because we can't get together in person, we can't celebrate. And I don't think that that's the way. We can still be connected in other ways. And it's just about being creative about it for right now. And then we'll just appreciate it that much more next year, I think.
I agree. I agree. A couple other questions here that relate to events. Again, you know, if cannabis is full of events. It's kind of what keeps us busy all spring and all fall. So this is a question here from Marco from Green Bros. Nice to meet you, Marco. Thanks for joining us. Marco's question is, we're holding all of our domestic and international shows until MJ BizCon in December, as we are concerned about turnout and that it could be significantly depleted. Once we're finally back at the end of this crisis, how long do you expect people who would be attending trade shows, how long do you expect they'll feel comfortable going to a show? This is a really tough one. Adam, anything from your experience on consumer behavior for trade shows coming out of a pandemic or emergency? Any thoughts there?
It's so difficult because, right, we have no basis, we have no historical data to lean on here, so it's tough. And it also depends geographically. So here in Ontario, for example, our premier just said that there will be no gatherings or no events until June, and another province or state or country may have different, you know, guidelines. So we're really taking it day by day, and so it's tough. It's basically impossible at this point to really know. We've moved our events. We have some June events. We've moved into late July and early August. But yeah, we don't know. I mean, I think people will be clamoring to get together, and you know, we're a social species, so I think people are excited and clamor. There's going to be so many events when this subsides. People will be going out every night, but it's tough to say. It's too early, I think, at this point to say.
What about your experience, Bridget? Any thoughts to add there around kind of the rebound effect for consumers coming out of these things? Well, do we need another SARS stock, or what do you think there?
Well, you know, I would say that a lot of musicians and artists and big companies like Live Nation and all of those places are thinking about what the future is going to look like. And coming out of this, you know, we'll have a greater sense of local, provincial, and kind of a national spirit, I'm sure. You know, that would be my expectation. And I think Canadians will want to support and promote and celebrate. When that's going to happen, to answer the question, and when that normal happens, is probably what we're doing right now. We're trusting health authorities and guidelines, and regional, local, and municipal, national government. They're telling us, you know, what's available. And I think once the measures are lifted and people start moving back into whatever the new normal will be, we will then experience events and have a sense of safety. But it's until we're allowed to move forward and cautiously and respectfully. I think that's the best answer from all of us that we can give at this time.
Yep. Wish we had a crystal ball and we could, you know, just put a marker in December 1st and we could do our great work back from there. But we'll have to wait it out a little bit. Mm-hmm. Another question for you, Bridget, actually from our friend Samantha Dumas. Samantha's wondering, what is the best way to get meaningful earned media today when so many journalists are being laid off during this time?
Well, I think that you know, we have to think about 2 or 3 things through this. A lot of media, a lot of journalists are being laid off or reassigned, or their work is changing. Having said that, there are still a number of opportunities in the media space to look for co-sponsor, to look for content. If unfortunately some outlets are having, small outlets or bloggers or sites are having a difficult time, you may want to offer content from your organization. You may want to create, you know, advertorials to see, to talk to them about what their editorial calendar is. I mean, I think that there's collaborations, and you should also look at your own owned channels, your website and your social platforms, to see if those can be leveraged and augmented to help to help raise your profile. So I hope I've answered your question, Samantha, which is try and offer your content, understand that the news cycle is still there, so maintain your ongoing relationships, and of course be very respectful and sensitive to the difficult time that many of our media colleagues are facing right now.
Definitely. Great answer. I'd also add, you can also call Marigold. We can do all of that for you. Nice little plug for us right there. Another great question here from Michael at Eco420. So Eco420, one of Marigold's previous clients, and so we're so glad Michael's joining us today. I think this is a great question for you, Christina. So Michael's wondering, you know, he's an accessories brand, he's struggling because he's got, his online sales are okay, but obviously in-store sales are struggling a little bit right now. And so, you know, as a third party, once things are kind of back in action, what are some ways that brands can work with retailers to activate in store and build their brands in store in the retail environment?
Yeah, we have a lot of our clients currently that are doing activations in stores. Of course, the methods of those activations are changing day by day on what's allowed and what's not allowed. I would definitely encourage Marco, if you want to reach out to us directly, we do have an entire retail division focused on just helping you promote your products in store, whether that's, you know, with a display, with a campaign, and we can also connect you with a few internal connections that maybe help push that product a little bit more, whether that's with a giveaway or an in-store promotion. We can also work with a lot of the retailers directly on what their compliance is about and what they can do and what they're able to do. Each kind of location has its own rules and regulations, so I can't say specifically what you can do in one particular store, but I definitely would want to discuss this further with you, because we do have a team dedicated to help in these situations for sure.
We have a question here that actually came in before the chat. And one of the questions, maybe Christina, you can touch on this, maybe Adam, what kind of direct mail opportunities are available for cannabis brands? And do you guys work with direct mail in any capacity?
Yeah, I can try this one. So
Jump in.
yeah, I'll jump in. So there's a couple options. So 2 options, and I'm speaking strictly on the B2B side, not the B2C side. So if you have print brochures or marketing material, printed physical marketing material, you'd like to get it out to the industry, we can polybag this magazine. So imagine a clear plastic wrapping over the magazine. That way, you know, that material gets inside the LPs in Canada and the labs. We've done some really cool, unique ones. One time we put trimming shears in there. So just depends on things like weight. So that's one example. Another way would be we can also do direct mail standalone pieces. So the industry would receive it not from Grow Opportunity. It would just be a white, you know, it would come, Grow Opportunity wouldn't be labeled anywhere. So there's 2 options. You can either align with the brand, or you can do a standalone piece. We have about 4,000 contacts across Canada that would go to.
So I can jump in as
Very
well.
cool. And
Yeah, we can certainly assist on our end. As far as direct mail goes, it really depends on the messaging that you're planning on putting on that piece and whether that needs to be age gated. We do a lot of direct mail in more of an unaddressed neighborhood fashion, so we can demographically choose the households that it reaches. We work alongside Canada Post and can execute everything from campaign management down to the printing of the piece and the induction and the entire mail walk. So that's something our team's very versed on. When it comes to Canada Post and the messaging, depending on what your messaging is, it may need to be an age-gated piece. So that's definitely where Adam's team comes in, because if they're using actual addresses, it's something that's been collected. If you're looking to do more of a blanket space, you know, we can target households that have, you know, ages 18 and up. I know specifically we've done campaigns in the past for LPs that are doing some hiring, so they want to make sure that their piece is really just going to households within the area. All of our demographic reports, our team works on with analytics to make sure that mail piece is going to the right hands.
Fabulous. Thank you for that information. Another question we had come in here from the Corey team. Bridget, I'm going to throw this question over to you.
Okay.
When is the right time to start PR, media, or investing in marketing overall for a cannabis retail that hasn't opened yet and will probably be open in about 12 months from now?
Well, probably the best PR is one of my favorite expressions is start laying track. And so probably, you know, getting your brand story right, getting your messaging, figuring out your calendar, identifying your audience, and start building your audience through your social, and you know, announcing that you're in the works and you're coming, because you need an audience to communicate to initially and then build it out from there. So if it's 12 months away, I think that within the next 2 to 3 months, you should be starting to build out your brand, all of the essentials around your brand, including your brand guide, you know, your visual image, and then start thinking about how you're going to launch, where you're going to launch, and of course your budget. And so once that's established, you can move from there. But for many of our clients, when we've gone through a launch process, we've generally started 10 to, you know, they have their product in place, and then we usually start about 10 months out. So anywhere from 10 to 6. And then there's people who say, I'm going to launch in 2 months, and then that happens as well. But ideally, for you should start planning now. And we'd be happy to help you.
The thought of time to plan, you know, having time to plan in this industry is a gift, really. I mean, you know, Bridget and I've spent the last almost 4 years executing plans and planning and executing at the same time. And so yes, use this time to do some amazing planning. Another question here from Michaela. How important, and we'll throw this over to Adam, how important are online marketing campaign strategies during this time? And is there more value now for advertisers to focus on online platforms since exposure and content with consumers is limited?
Yes, absolutely. Great question. So a lot of our properties, especially cannabis, we're seeing an increase. I mean, people are not traveling, they're not in airports, they're at home consuming more digital content, and we see this through our analytics. It's almost double. It's about 50% more. So working traditionally in B2B, the value comes is spent by monthly campaigns as opposed to CPM, which is more traditionally in B2C. So the value of your dollar on digital advertising is also going further as we see an increase in digital activity. So absolutely, it's a great time to be advertising digitally. Yeah.
I agree. And even, as a brand, there's lots of things that you can be doing that Bridget alluded to earlier, creating your own content on your blog, creating social events, engaging live across social, hosting webinars. Definitely lots of interesting ways that you can leverage the online space to drive audiences and drive engagement. A question from Nora, who's one of our amazing WWC Women Wellness and Cannabis Conference committee members, which were taking place online May 27th. So check out wwcconference.com and register. Welcome to everyone. But Nora asked us a little bit around, well, let me read you the question here. Interestingly enough, a lot of dispensaries and LPs are seeing a spike in sales, and a lot of consumers are turning to cannabis products. How can we as marketers be empathetic towards the situation and build strategic plans in the time of COVID? We've spoke a little bit about this, but perhaps Bridget, you could speak to directly the fact, in this space, we're dealing with a spike in sales right now. And so what can we be doing as marketers to try to leverage this, but again, show that empathy the whole way along?
Well, I think that, why are people interested in cannabis right now? Well, there's a myriad of reasons. Many people are looking for ways to cope, and so it may be relaxation, it may be a tiny bit of self-medication, it may be they have time to enjoy it. There's all sorts of reasons why people might be choosing to consume right now at a higher rate. And plus the other is that they may be interested in trying new products and new options, which is great. And so I think that during this time, we need to recognize that it's still okay to enjoy yourself and to take care of yourself and to enhance your experiences. And I think that if we can do it in a sensitive, empathetic way, that shows kindness and doesn't look to be opportunistic or taking advantage of a situation, I think that that's kind of the human tone that we should be thinking about. Oh, I agree.
And
Someone
we have
just
a
also
comment here, Bridget, in the chat. Yeah.
No, it's a very important point. A beautiful point that a lot of people can't manage their pain and wellness because from Siobhan, hi, because they can't manage they don't have access to physiotherapy and treatment and pain management. Absolutely. So that I was alluding to that lightly in the self-medication, but yes, pain management is key.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Siobhan. Thank you.
Yes,
there's
thank
a
you.
question in here in the chat actually about bud tenders, and this is a really great point. And it's not exact B2B since bud tenders are dealing with consumers, but retailers need to train bud tenders. And the question here is, how are they supposed to educate and develop brand recognition when they have more than 300 products that they're taking care of? And so I know none of us are working specifically in retail, but any thoughts, any advice from any of the panelists on how bud tenders could try to get to know and hone their recommendations a little bit more closely? It's a tricky one. I'm happy to jump in. There is some training vehicles that are available through Lyft and Green Flower. They've got some stuff out right now. But I do agree with you. What we know from statistics is that brand recognition is very low with consumers when it comes to cannabis brands. And so there's a lot of work that needs to be done on branding side of cannabis and all of the licensed producers down to the specific strains and all their specific brands to get in front of the right people. I do believe this fits into a B2B conversation, because what we know right now is who's out there talking about cannabis in a real way? Well, it's the industry. We still see a fair amount of stigma in terms of how consumers are speaking openly about their cannabis usage across social and that kind of thing. But where you're seeing kind of an explosion is through the industry folks. So I do think right now, industry in Canada anyways, is a great vehicle for a lot of the brands that are trying to build brand recognition and move that forward, since we tend to be very vocal and have lots of opinions about the space. Any other suggestions from any of the panelists on brand recognition?
Well, on brand recognition and bud tenders, a number of companies have employed cannabis sommeliers and bud tenders and food experts, and they're interesting because in the comments, some people are talking about following reviews, etc. And so I think it's that I think people are looking for experts and bud tenders who have specific expertise that's trusted and can be used as a clear guide, and working with them would be advantageous, because people, as we know, are spending a lot of time online right now looking for credible information on a myriad of topics.
I
love that. Thanks, Colin, for your note there.
Sorry.
Yes, thank you, Colin, for your question there. That was awesome. Over to you, Christina.
No, I was going to agree with Colin. We actually have that question come up quite a bit, and we hear it from the retailers, and we hear it from the LPs. The LPs want their messaging and their brand recognition out there. The bud tenders want the information. So I can't speak too much to it, but definitely we've seen that as a something that we want to tackle, and can't really talk too much about it, but we're definitely going to be reaching out to the community and the industry about this, and working on something to help bridge that gap between the two.
Fabulous.
Yeah. It is fabulous. And so Sarah from Sundial sharing here that they're working on a platform to educate bud tenders. You know, and Siobhan's mentioning that it's tricky because anyone who went through the transition to the legal market, definitely bud tenders can't speak to consumers in the way they used to before, which was quite specific. For that specific person, so things that become a little bit more generic. But we know there's some really cool tools out there, like the Buddy app, and a couple other pieces of technology that are helping to support this decision-making process for consumers. That being said, the bud tender training, education, knowledge piece is tricky, and the industry is evolving. And so, yes, over 300 products someone had mentioned, and you know, more and more just coming to shelves. So the education piece for both the industry and consumers is a big one in our space. All right, just checking here, I think. Oh, one more question here from Melissa. Hi, Melissa. Are there restrictions around contesting to bud tenders tied to achieving training modules? Other industries have utilized online training portals with incentives to help with brand loyalty. Interesting. I don't know the answer to that one. Let me just read it one more time. Are there restrictions around contesting to bud tenders tied to achieving training modules? Other industries have this opportunity to achieve brand loyalty. I don't know about contesting with bud tenders. Adam, any sense of that? It's a B2B activation, contesting within B2B for bud tenders?
Yeah, I guess that would be B2B. The restrictions in the Cannabis Act for B2B contesting and marketing are less strict than on B2C. We've done contests before, so I would have to check the Cannabis Act to really dive into the details on that, but I think you're okay. I could be wrong, but because it's B2B, as long as you stay within those B2B guidelines, I would just look over the Cannabis Act to double and triple check to make sure you're following all the guidelines.
Yep. The Fun Cannabis Act and all of its interpretations, what we live with all the time. But that is something we didn't touch on today. And you know, the fact that there are more opportunities for what you can say and do in the B2B space than B2C. So that little nugget I mentioned around the industry being our biggest advocates is something to consider when you're trying to build a brand and trying to leverage that ability as a cannabis brand, working within the regulations that we all find so challenging. I think that we have run through all of our questions. Tracy, do you have any additional questions on your end? I think we may have covered them all off.
We actually have. I was just reviewing them now. All good. I'm just monitoring the slide.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Adam and Christina, for joining us from Grow Opportunity and Detonate. And of course, my amazing partner, Bridget Hoffer. And thank you, Tracy, for all the tech stuff. We can't do it without you. We are here Wednesdays at 1 in April. You're welcome. We're here Wednesdays at 1 in April, sharing important information for marketers in our space. Thank you so much for all of the comments and chats. I see a few more comments coming through. Hi, Jackie. Thank you for joining us. So we hope to see you guys next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we'll be covering social good and CSR, which is a really hot topic in the space. And again, not without its challenges. So we're eager to dive into that conversation. And then we have a few more kind of interesting hot topics coming through the rest of the month. Please check out marigoldpr.com. You can learn a little bit more about our team, our services. We have some really great pandemic COVID tips and tricks for social media, PR, employee communications, and brand building, stuff that will help in your everyday. And also, don't forget to visit the Women Wellness and Cannabis Conference website, www.conference.com, where you can register to be part of our large online conference focused on women, wellness, and cannabis coming May 27th, which we're really excited about. Again, thank you, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful day. Happy Wednesday, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.